Corrupt, brutal, and unprofessional are the words widely used to describe the conduct of police officers in particular and security operatives in general across West Africa and beyond. This is despite being trained and swearing an oath to protect and serve. Populations thus generally have a low regard for the quality of policing on the continent, which is today driving the narrative for a better, effective and efficient police force. This is West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal, and the program is In The Sahel. I am Abdullahi Hassan, your host, taking over from Imo Edet, who brought you content on the program every other week during my absence. This week's edition of the program is on strengthening state police.
First and foremost, in several African states, we do not have sufficient police to man and provide internal security. Secondly, a lot of them do not have sufficient training and equipment that they need to be able to function effectively. And then thirdly, apart from the fact that they don't have sufficient equipment to function effectively, the issue of training has become an issue over the years.
Afrobarometer in a recent report reveals new evidence of how Africans experience and assess their police, especially as people often contend with demands for bribes from officers. The study also discloses that negative perceptions of police professionalism and corruption go hand in hand with low public trust in the police, poor marks on government performance, and citizens' sense of insecurity. However, assessments varied by country in the survey carried out in 39 of 55 African countries for the Afrobarometer report on police professionalism and other state institutions. Imoredet has the rest of the details in this report.
The report published in March 2024 shows that while some citizens seek assistance from the police to report a crime, others might only encounter the police in less voluntary situations, such as at a checkpoint or traffic stop or during an investigation. Across the 39 country sample, only 13% of respondents said they had requested police assistance during the previous 12 months, 3 times as many that reported encountering the police in other situations. Among respondents, more than half, or 54%, said it had been easy to get the help they needed in Burkina Faso and Mauritius, though no more than half as many said the same in Malawi, Madagascar, and Sudan. On average, 39% of Africans said the police often or always stop drivers without good reason, in addition to 26% who said they sometimes did so. The practice is particularly widespread in Gabon and Kenya. In contrast, fewer than 1 in 5 respondents in Ethiopia, Cabo Verde, and Benin had this complaint. Afrobarometer survey indicates that both seeking police assistance and being stopped on the road may be a prelude to being asked for money. This proportion reached astonishing levels in Liberia, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, and Uganda. One of the harshest criticisms leveled against some police officers was the use of excessive force in their interactions with the people they were meant to serve and protect. The perception of frequent police brutality against protesters was most common in Gabon, Guinea, and Tunisia. In just 5 countries surveyed, did more than half of the respondents think the police usually acted professionally. These are Burkina Faso, Morocco, Niger, Benin, Mali, and Senegal, ranked 6. These findings raise questions about the quality of policing on the African continent, highlighting notably negative experiences and evaluations of the police in many but not all countries. Afrobarometer's findings point to broad cross-country patterns of how police professionalism, integrity, and respectful conduct are correlated with more positive citizen attitudes towards the police and general security.
Imoredet reporting there. In Mali, faced with the constant threat of armed groups, the transitional authorities have strengthened the powers of the national police force, which is now a military force. The aim is to maintain the presence of the state in localities reclaimed by the army. This police force, which will be deployed on the front line, will benefit from advanced training and military equipment adapted to the security context. But questions are being raised about its ability to combat terrorism and its relationship with the population. Augustine Colley tells us more in this report by our correspondent in Bamako, Aliu Cham.
In October 2023, 232 students completed their 7-month training, during which they learned combat tactics and how to use the latest military equipment. These recruits were deployed to theaters of operation to combat terrorism. Brigadier General Suleiman Chouare is Director General of the National Police Force.
Their training, in particular the technique of pre-pressure, the technique of knotting, the technique of progression, of hand-to-hand, of vehicle control, among others.
In 2022, the ruling military made some changes, including the militarization of the National Police Force. It now enables this force to intervene in areas where insecurity is rife. Fusenu Ouattara, Vice President of the Defense Commission of the Council of the National Transition.
Ces cadres de la police nationale ont bénéficié de formations de haut niveau.
In their training, including the preparation, the maintenance, the progression of the vehicle's handling, the control of the vehicle, and so on. These national police officers have benefited from high-level training provided by experts in order to be able to face the current security requirements. Their training program has taken into account the new paradigm of the security environment and the emergence of new threats. This program has been completed by specific modules for the militarization of the police. Every day our police rise in power and increase their forces and their equipment. During these last 3 years, we have undertaken an increased struggle against terrorism, crime, and delinquency.
However, this reinforcement of the powers of the National Police is not unanimously supported by the population, since it was a paramilitary force responsible for maintaining the security of the country. On the other hand, security analyst Soumaila La insists on another dimension of police training, which he believes will help build trust with the population.
Augustine Colley with that report sent in by Aliu Cham in Bamako. In Ghana, citizens are making similar calls for a state police that is not just equipped, but informed and enlightened on civil relations, respect for human rights, and professionalism. Their call is against the backdrop of the frequent communal conflicts and chieftaincy disputes, border clashes, robberies, and thuggery across the country. As a reminder, Ghana goes to the poll on December 7 to elect a new president, a period that is usually characterized by mild chaos.
First and foremost, I think the police should be equipped on how to resolve conflict, especially when it pertains to two parties that are fighting. When you train them on conflict mediation and the others, I think first and foremost they would be able to prevent the conflict from being worse. Secondly, I think government should equip them with the necessary logistics. If you are going to resolve conflict, you should be able to have your equipment, the right apparel and others. Government should be able to equip them with all those things so that when they go to the battle and people are releasing cutlasses and the others, you also have the mandate to also protect yourself. Politicians should also try their best not to infiltrate themselves into traditional business. For them, they have to just advise, as the people were saying, and not to force them or press them to do their work.
Security system should be improved, more or less. Like there should be involvement of the cybersecurity specialists and all those people included in the police forces, so that criminal cases can be, managed and controlled. And in a situation whereby everything is based on book and pen thing, I don't think investigations can even go further, or they can be carried out at their best. So I think the best thing can be included in the police department is their security system. They can be specialized in using computers and employing people who can do best in the IT sector to help cover up certain things.
What I think is that the police service should be independent. It shouldn't be politicized. Okay, so if they are independent, they can act independently. They can do things without having to consult others before. Yeah, and the government should also provide them with all the amenities they need to be able to make sure security is tight in the country.
Voices of Ghanaians there pleading for a better police force in the country. Corrupt and brutal, two strong convictions or words of Nigerians that eventually inspired the October 2022 protest against the police. Dubbed #EndSARS, many Nigerians recalled their horrific experiences with a rogue unit in the police force at a time tasked with managing complex criminal issues. Members of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad or SARS, according to reports, killed hundreds of people over the years for minor offenses or simply by refusing to bribe them or agree to sabotage other people's lives and businesses. After the march during the regime of former President Muhammadu Buhari, the unit was disbanded and some officers were tried and dismissed. Speaking a while back, Nigeria's current Vice President Kashim Shettima confirmed revamping the police force.
We are upgrading your equipment and technology to enhance operational effectiveness and efficiency. This includes acquiring fit-for-purpose equipment, weapons, ammunition, and armored carriers to provide cover and protection for officers in combat situations. The 7th of April is hereby declared National Police Day in Nigeria.
Nigeria's Vice President Kashim Shettima speaking there. But regardless of government efforts, Nigerians are calling for a different kind of overhaul. Take a listen.
You have to improve their training so that they can improve their services to the people.
I think the government needs to do a total overhaul. What I mean total overhaul is doing some training and retraining and try to see how to do or copy other developed countries' police reform. Because as for now, the police issue in Nigeria is becoming a nightmare whereby as of how many years back the whole country was turned into quagmire whereby the issue of EndSARS, the Nigerian government needs to sit down and carry out a proper reform on policing.
Among the policemen, we have some people who will not harass you anyhow. You can see six policemen. Among them, you see some of them who are a devil that can say, okay, my friend, get inside the vehicle without any reasons.
My best result for this police brutality is actually putting up a segment that is not from the police, but they are of the law. To actually look out and persecute. They are particularly meant to persecute these corrupt policemen. Because if you leave the police to the police, they might not do the job very well. So I think having a different segment of the law will actually help very well. And putting them in strategic position, like where the police have checkpoints, where the police are officially on duty, to actually keep a spying eye on them. That will curb the corruption we have within the police system.
Nigerians speaking about the need for police reform in the country. Security experts and analysts say African governments looking to change the unfavorable public perceptions of the police and of government performance in the fight against crime might take a closer look at which dimensions of police performance matter in their country and which better performing police forces might have solutions to share. In the words of Gad Shamaki Peters, a security consultant and the executive director of Clean Foundation, key police operational concerns at the center of the problems first need to be addressed.
First and foremost, in several African states, we do not have sufficient police to man and provide internal security. Secondly, a lot of them do not have sufficient training and equipment that they need to be able to function effectively. And then thirdly, apart from the fact that they don't have sufficient equipment to function effectively, the issue of training has become an issue over the years, and that has become a major challenge. So all of these are problems that the police are facing in several states in Africa, and it's not allowing them to work. Now, beyond that, you agree with me also too that a lot of the work of the police have been taken over by successful military government in Africa, or because of several crises that the police are not able to handle, they are given to the military to do. And so that has become a problem that the police are weakened, so they are not able to provide support for internal security. So, and then of course the sophistication of the crime that we see in several African states are gradually becoming too strong for the police to be able to handle. So states finding more convenient to invite military to come and do police work. And so over the years that has become a major challenge with policing in most African states.
Now, you mentioned the fact that the work of the police today has technically been shifted or transferred to other security agencies. Could that be because of lack of public trust in the police? Or I read somewhere in a research work by Afrobarometer that police across African countries are being described as being brutal, corrupt, and unprofessional.
No, it's a combination of all. The police are the product of the society. So how are most of our society functioning? So a lot of our society are functioning a very without respect for rule of law. There's an increased act of crime and criminality. And if there are breakdown of family values, if the society is not working, government is not providing for the people, and there's so much hunger in the land and people are into little thefts, you cannot, with all honesty, put such blame on the doorstep of the police. Because the first question is that, have you provided the necessary support for the police to function? And so when government, you see the whole conversation we're having is the fact that government needs to be responsive across board to reduce the rate of crime and criminality by supporting security agencies to do their work. So if that doesn't happen, then definitely you're going to have this kind of issue of criminality, and then that will keep creating problems for the society.
Let's also look at this context where it is said always that the police, not just in Nigeria where you are at the moment, but across West Africa, are usually under-resourced. This could also mean in terms of budget and manpower. But does security vote in countries not cover the need of the state police?
No, the security vote is money that is usually given to governors in some states to decide how they use it. But if you're talking about budget that is given to the police in terms of money given to the police, how much is such a budget that is given to the police by a state government? And even when such money are given, do the police get 100% of such allocation? Because you know in several of our parliaments, they find it more convenient to say, look, we're going to give you 100 million, but you're going to give us 30 million out of it, you're going to give us 20 million out of it. So there are lots of these allegations are there. And then when the money is given too, it keeps getting cut across several layers. And then what trickles down may not be anything significant that is going to enhance policing. So we must look at the parliament, we must look at our national assemblies across various African states and see, are they genuinely convinced and committed to internal security? Do they do the right budgetary? They get the money they requested. We may not be able to make a definite statement about how such money are given and how such money are spent. But if you go beyond this conversation, you'll find out that in several states, including Nigeria, several of the police people are guiding VIP. Very few of them are left for the general public. And so these are issues of concern, and these are issues that affect internal security.
If today the subject of strengthening state police is mentioned, and you ask, you'd of course agree that this is a multi-layered crisis or problem. So is it going to be the top-to-bottom approach or bottom-to-top approach? And how would you recommend that this issue be addressed, at least when we talk about strengthening police?
Well, you can enhance community policing at various levels. I know that strong agitation for creation of state police because the federal police is not working, but these dynamics need to be looked into carefully to ensure that we don't create another layers of problems. The issue is that if security is working across board, it will work well. I think what we lack is the issue of commitment, is the issue of adequate training, the issue of funding and equipping the police in such a way that they are able to deliver. So for me, I think these are conversations that need to be done deeply beyond just the shallow discussion that we have most of the time to ensure that we're looking at the issue of state police broadly, identifying how it is going to work. Otherwise, you're going to create state police and create additional problems. As it is now in Nigeria, several states already have a semi-quasi kind of state police arrangement. So how are they effectively working? I agree there are several spaces where the federal police cannot reach, but again, it's the only institution of security in Nigeria that have present in virtually every local government. So I think what we need to do is to enhance it and make it work for the common good.
And I know one time you also mentioned the issue of training. How imperative is this to strengthen state police?
Crime is dynamic. Crime is evolving. Things are changing. So for every time things are changing, then you need to improve the capacity of the police to respond appropriately to those changes. We had 419 in the past. Now we're having kidnappers, we're having bandits, we're having quite a number of issues. So all of these demand that the police respond to the 21st century or the kind of crime that is happening now. The crime of the 1960s, 70s, 80s are not the same as what is happening now. So yes, training, they need a lot of forensic training. They need to have technology that they work with. And so as crime is changing, the training needs of the police need to be improved upon.
And before I let go of you, I wanted to ask you, you work with the Nigerian police a lot in terms of training, and not just the police also, but other security agencies. How frequent should security outfits carry out evaluation and monitoring exercise? For instance, to just know very well about mental and physical fitness of officers and see whether or not they are fit for duty.
Well, is the availability of resources that will do that, but I think a random mental test and psychological test should be encouraged, but a deeper training can happen at the level of the colleges or the resources that they have, and because if there is no money for such things, we're only going to be speaking English and making suggestions that will not add value. So we need to look at the internal working of the police. What do they have? Do they even have the capacity to carry out such tests? If they do they have enough manpower to do it? And then you can now make suggestions whether it should be annually or whatever. But I think these are the kind of things that should happen as frequent as possible, and to ensure that it's taking place in such a way that we're able to see results.
And finally, the relationship between police and the community should be symbiotic in nature, in the sense that while the police is helping to protect and serve the community is also helping with intelligence sharing. Is this something you see, or there's need for an improvement in this sort of relationship?
Of course, the relationship needs to be enhanced, because if the relationship is working well, probably will be having this interview, and probably will be the accusation that the police is not responding well, or the police is policing with impunity. So such relationship definitely need to be enhanced and made in such a way that is complementary of each other's role.
Gad Shamaki Peters is a security expert and the executive director of Clean Foundation Nigeria. This is a wrap-up of this episode of In The Sahel, WADR's security program aiming to tell the African security crisis the African way. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to my guests and colleagues for their contributions. Join this frequency, West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM, every Friday at 7:30 a.m. and the same day at 6:30 p.m. for the rebroadcast. Also, join the discussion on our social media platforms, X, Instagram at WADR News, on Facebook, WADR English Service, and stream live on WADR.org. I'm Abdullahi Hassan. It's a bye for now.